What's up, YouTube? It's Logan, the Metal and Beer Snob, and tonight I'm here to do a quick but fun video. This is a contest entry for Jeff at Mendicant Media. He's holding a contest for hitting 3,000 subscribers, and I wanted to join in. First off, just to say congratulations to Jeff. Cheers, man. Well deserved. And then secondly, because it's a cool contest and I like the topic that he has chosen to have us discuss, which is the year that we turned 30. Join me for a video as I wax poetic about turning the big 3-0 back in 2023, a long time ago. Without further ado, let's crack another beer and dive in. One of the cool things about Jeff is I know he's a beer guy. So, one beer snob to another. Cheers. I definitely had to bring something tasty to the table. For me, this is one of the first beers that welcomed me into New Orleans when I moved in 2023. So it kind of has a sentimental value in a way. And it signaled that New Orleans, Louisiana still has good beer. Not as good as North Carolina and the amount of variety that was up there. But still, tasty, more by the numbers, but still drinkable beer. I mean, come on. So, one of my go-tos down here, Paradise Park from Urban South Brewery. But since we're filming a video for an Aussie, I had to bring Foster's into the conversation somehow. So, I do not know how Jeff feels about Foster's. He might hate this shit. So, just in case, I'm bringing only a glass versus an actual Foster's beer. I don't want to insult the man by accident. Shitty pour. But Jeff, cheers, man. Congrats on 3,000 subscribers. Perfect, flavorful, tasty lager. It's light. Still has exactly what you need from a craft beer. One more note of housekeeping. What we're listening to in the background is another 2023 album. It's not quite making this upcoming list, but, you know, I wanted to mention it. Bongzilla dropped Dab City in 2023. This has been their last recording. I kind of missed the guys. Hope they're doing all right. From Wisconsin, this pissed off stoner sludge band, you know, they simultaneously know how to craft a weedy rhythm, jam, but then also, you know, bring a very headbangable riff and savage moment from time to time. So, always enjoy listening to Bongzilla. Another reason why 2023, great year. So yeah, congrats to Jeff again. 3,000 subscribers is a pretty big amount in this little sphere that we call the Metal VCLT. And he's definitely one of my favorite YouTubers to watch. Always has some sick, gnarly stuff to show off. I definitely enjoy his taste in grind and death metal, but every now and then he sprinkles in some tasty sludge that I enjoy as well. I absolutely had to join this contest as soon as he announced it. Anyway, reflecting back to when I turned 30, that was September of 2023, and as I said before, 2023 was kind of a big year for me. It was me moving from Charlotte, North Carolina to New Orleans, Louisiana. And that was over the summer months, which was the most brutal time to move down here. And it's funny now that it's like 3 years in the rear view at this point. It was kind of a brutal transition. I would not have admitted it at the time, but it's tough moving to a new place, you know, starting a new job, and for me it was kind of a new career path, and getting everything transitioned and set up to roll. So it all felt quite chaotic, and when I look back on it, I think the music that I enjoyed kind of reflects that. I didn't listen to as much in 2023 as I would have liked. If I move up to 2024 or back to like 2021, there was a lot more albums in my year-end lists and stuff. Hey, I still have enough for this video for sure, because Jeff only wants us to show 5. I'm gonna cheat and show 10. Speaking of cheating, this video was actually incredibly easy to make because 2023, I was indeed on YouTube and I recorded a top 25 of 2023, I believe. So I literally already wrote the list for this video. So I basically just copied and pasted that video, and here we are. I'm basically going to talk about my top 10 from 2023 that I already discussed in a previous video. For me, though, it was still very cool to revisit these albums in 2023 as a year, kind of reflect on where I was as a person, but then also where metal music was and what my favorite albums were from 2023. So, and now enough jibber jabbering. Let's get things started. So as I said, I'm sneaking 5 honorable mentions in here. We're literally going to run through my top 10 from 2023. The first 3 of these 5 I actually do not own. Some of them actually rank higher than where they're appearing on this list, but I figured let's just get the digital stuff out of the way. Still amazing albums, and I wish I had each of these. Honorable mention number 5, Chained to the Bottom of the Ocean, Obsession Destruction. This is this band's second full length, and they're just pissed off sludge metal with like that doom level pacing. Like, they kind of made their career worshiping Thou, and I think this album is kind of the pinnacle of that worship. It's long, it's drawn out, it's brutal, it's visceral. Big fan of Chained to the Bottom of the Ocean for sure. Honorable mention number 4, Phaedra, Militant, Penitent, Triumphant. I am typically not the biggest black metal fan, but this one immediately clicked with me when I heard it. Very atmospheric, very haunting, very beautiful. This band kind of came out of nowhere for me with this release, and I've slowly become a bigger fan of them over the years. So, yeah, had to mention Phaedra. And then honorable mention number 3, Sulphur Aeon, 7 Crowns and 7 Seals. Now this one I really should own, because this was a top 5 of the year for me. I put it at number 4, and it could easily be like number 3 or even 2 on this list. I think 7 Crowns and 7 Seals sees Sulphur Aeon really come into their own and make the album that they've been hinting at since the very beginning. It's epic, it's triumphant, it's brutal. It's the perfect merging of modern day death metal with like more of a black metal atmosphere that doesn't shy away from melodies and incorporating like catchy builds in their songwriting. Now, finally on to stuff that I own. My 4th honorable mention, Majesties, Vast Reaches Unclaimed. I am a big fan of that melodic death metal sound of the early 90s to mid 90s. I mean, In Flames is a favorite band of mine. You can't go wrong with Dark Tranquillity, and this is totally worshiping that, but not in a way that feels like it's worshiping it. It feels original. It feels new. It feels exciting. It doesn't feel like just a simple ripoff of old ideas. It has its own identity, I think, which is impressive. Like, it harkens back, obviously, with the melodies and the way the guitars are being played. But then the tracks themselves, I think, are written in a more adventurous way that doesn't feel like what Sweden was doing back in the early 90s. Absolutely perfect debut, and one that I've consistently been spinning since its release. And then Grizzly Rotten Death Metal actually did pretty good for me this year. I've got a couple death metal albums I'll be talking about. The first one that I own, though, classic old school death metal from Autopsy. Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts. This is kind of the album that made modern day Autopsy click for me. Like, I've always checked out a new Autopsy album, but this one made me fall in love with this sound that they're playing with. It's so messy, so loose and feral and rabid. It's the perfect pairing of their influences. It's punk, it's doom, there's like some stoner, like bong resonating riffs in here. Tracks like Throat Saw and Toxic Deathfuck bring that like punky death metal energy, while tracks like Well of Entrails, Ashes, Organs, Blood, and Crypts, and Lobotomizing Gods are more on that doomy, like, slower side. Just a perfect balance for the Autopsy sound. This album also came out in October of 2023, so I have vivid memories of this being my Halloween album of the year. And now moving on from honorable mentions to the actual list, let's talk about some more death metal with my fifth favorite album of 2023, Torture Rack, Primeval Onslaught. This is a band that kind of showed me that newer bands in 2023 can release phenomenal, memorable, iconic death metal. And it's just meat and potatoes. Like, they're not really doing anything new, but it's still sick. It's depraved, it's fast, it's punky, and the riffs are awesome. Like, I think that's my favorite 2 points of this album. It's like the merging of death metal and punk on tracks like Morning Star Massacre and Fucked by Death. What a song. And then the riffs and more drawn out tracks, and when I say drawn out, I mean like 3 minutes, such as Decrepit Funeral Home, Forced from the Pit, Victims of Inquisitors, and Rotting Insignificance. Absolutely a death metal album that I have continued to spin over subsequent years, and it's all the better because it's like 26 minutes long. It's fucking awesome. Number 4 for 2023 is more death metal, but this time we're a bit more forward thinking. We're not playing meat and potatoes and just doing the same old stuff. We're kind of pushing the genre in a different direction. This is Afterbirth with In But Not Of. Absolutely a bizarre album that I'm still trying to wrap my head around in a certain way. Like 50% brutal death metal with like the most sickening vocals from one Will Smith. 50% like shoegazy, atmospheric, progressive elements, just perfectly paired. And I think the reason why it works so well is it's not like they're actually separating out the moments where like, oh, here's a brutal death metal part, and then here's a beautiful atmospheric part. They've somehow merged the two, where while Will is doing these brutal, slamming vocals, and the music feels like it's propelling you at a slam, brutal death metal velocity, there's some beautiful like guitar work going on at the same time. It's really something to behold, and to me, this is the album that Afterbirth have been trying to write, because I've been following these guys since their debut, The Time Traveler's Dilemma, and liking their output, but never like loving it. Here, I love it. Number 3, we're kind of getting into a not metal album, Blood Ceremony, The Old Ways Remain. So I am a fan of this like retro 70s rock and roll stuff that has been popping up over the past decade or so. Of course, this is courtesy of Rise Above Records. To my ear, Blood Ceremony does that like not metal, retro heavy metal stuff the best of any band I've heard so far. It's if Jethro Tull met Led Zeppelin with Black Sabbath, but then I guess maybe Coven and like other more obscure bands from that era. It's just such a unique mixture, and it's a very haunting and enchanting piece of music. And I remember in 2023 when I first heard this, it was like the tail end of summer, which in New Orleans, if you don't know, that's a kind of brutal time. So summer is this oppressive, sweltering mess of humidity and 100-degree plus days. There's this beautiful time where it's still very hot in like early September, where you start to feel the breeze of fall and you can like just taste it. The changing of seasons is upon us. And to me, this album kind of came in right at that time and just feels like the perfect transitionary album where summer is dying and fall is kind of seeping in. To me, it's a seasonal album in that way. But next up, more death metal. More forward-thinking progressive death metal. At number 2 for 2023, Horrendous, Ontological Mysterium. I'm a big Horrendous fan. I kind of got into them back with Ecdysis, and then when they released Anareta in 2015, I was all on board. And then the album after that, Idol, didn't really do anything for me. It was one of those where it kind of just glossed over me. So going into Ontological Mysterium, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel. One listen into this, and I was blown away, really. Like, this is the perfect culmination of their forward-thinking progressive elements and their classic, like, old-school 90s death metal elements, but incorporated in a way that sounds fresh and new, like, fully realized, where once again, it's not like, oh, here's a old-school death metal part, and then all of a sudden, oh, we're going into this prog jam now. Everything is fully integrated and the sound is universal throughout. And once again, the songs are here. Like tracks such as the opener, Chrysopoeia, and then Neon Leviathan are both some of my favorites. Track 5, actually, Preteration Hymn, is my absolute favorite on this album. But then they can still bring like some heavy riffs, like Cult of Shadow, track 6. Great album all the way through, not a weak moment here. I mean, their trick is kind of just doing it short. This is like 38 minutes, which definitely helps. And then my number 1 from 2023, the year I turned 30, is actually not a metal album either, so sorry. More in the stoner side of things, which if you can't tell, I'm a big fan of, so it makes sense. But one of my all-time favorite bands of that style is Dozer. No one does desert rock with a little bit of sludge quite like Dozer, because it's very down-to-earth and catchy and easy to digest, but it feels larger at the same time. Like, they're dealing with a lot of, outer space elements and floating with that kind of, like, atmosphere. But the songwriting and the way that the riffs hit just feel like catchy, anthemic, hard rock. I'm really a rock fan, I think, at the core. And this is just well done, well executed, riff-oriented, hard rock, but with that very spacey, stoner, and psychedelic atmosphere to it. So I love these guys. This is kind of their comeback album, their first release since I believe 2010 or 2011. So yeah, after 11 or 12 years, man, they're back and they killed it. Like, their previous album that I held in high regard as like their masterpiece, their 10 out of 10, was Through the Eyes of Heathens. This one basically measures up to it. I personally think it's a masterpiece and a 10 out of 10 album. Like, maybe the only reason why I would prefer Through the Eyes of Heathens is because it was here first and it has Big Sky Theory on it. But there's not a weak song on these 8 tracks, and it's just strength to strength until the final track, Missing 13, which springs it all in and gives me one of the most spine-chilling and epic closers that I've heard within the past 5 years. So, absolutely recommend Dozer, Drifting in the Endless Void, my number 1 favorite album from 2023. So there we go. 5 or 10 albums from the year I turned 30, and hopefully a successful tribute to Jeff and his awesome channel. Jeff, appreciate you hosting this contest, man. It was fun to sit there, think about it, and record this video, and looking forward to whatever else you do in the future. Cheers.